Welcome to More For Me by yours truly, Kat Necole. What up, homie? It is an honor and a privilege to have you here with me in the studio yet again. So, for those who are returning, I want to say welcome back. And for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Welcome to the homie ship. Well, what's a homie? Homies are folks who come and hang out with me and we do life together, literally. They accompany me on my journey and I accompany them on their journey as well. And we are traversing our path, navigating the waters of life, and just progressing towards the destination of more that God has for each and every one of us. I believe wholeheartedly that there's more for me. And that's what prompted me to begin to share back in August of 2020 all of the things that I have been experiencing or have experienced in the past. So looking at everything that I have embarked upon in life and some of the things that I'm literally working through present day and just wanting to share and expose you to some of the things, the hills, the mountains, the valleys, the potholes, and the random $20 bills on the side of the road, all of that jazz that I have been experiencing, and maybe some of the lessons that I've learned and or strategies and principles that I'm trying to apply to make it through to the next day. And that is just that. That's why we come here every week. So I am glad again that you joined me today. If you would like to join the homieship, which I highly encourage, I love my homies. Go ahead and click the subscribe button below. And make sure you turn on your notifications so you know when new content is dropping for your eyes and your ears and you are ready to dig in with the rest of the homies. Got it? Cool. But before we roll on to this week's topic at hand, I'm wondering, can you guys do me a solid? Can you take a moment, not only to share this episode, but I would love to hear from you. And the best way to communicate with me is to leave a review and rate the podcast. Let me know what you think about the content, the show as a whole, even about me, what topics you want to hear. If there's something that you really vibe with and connected with, it blessed you or caused you to think, it challenged you, whatever that may be. I love to hear what you think about the show. And again, the best way to do that is to leave a review, drop a rating. I know sometimes you just go, but I'm asking, just take a moment and do just that. It would mean a lot. Greatly appreciate it. All right. So today, I was thinking about things that grow stale, right? I don't know if you've ever had to make a sandwich with some stale bread. If it's all you know, then it is what it is, and it's scrumptious. Shout out to The Simpsons. But if you've had fresh bread before and now you are using stale bread, then the sandwich doesn't just taste as good. Using the same peanut butter, the same jelly, maybe the same Miracle Whip or mayonnaise and the same lunch meat or whatever you're putting on your sandwich, but it just doesn't taste the same. I started thinking about this really because my car had been sitting for a few days. And when I went to drive my vehicle, it smelled, how do you say, stale? Like when you're young, you're like, really, what is what's stale smell like? But it's a word that I've grown to use when it comes to smelling things. But like the air was just kind of old. It hadn't been refreshed. There was no circulation. And even though there's an air freshener in the car, whatever the last scent and just sitting there, that was the overwhelming scent or smell when I got in the car. And so you can, depending upon the season, I get a little fresh air in that Cali weather. So you can open your windows a little bit more days than not. But then also you can turn on your AC or whatever and circulate some air through, but you really like refreshing the air, kind of like pressing the reset button. And by now, my mind, it continues to go, it continues to work. And I'm like, man, how many things in life do we allow to grow stale and we don't? One, there's a couple sides of it, right? How many things in life do we allow to grow stale, but we've never had fresh bread before? So we don't even know that we're eating a sandwich made with stale bread. The other side of that is, how many things do we allow to be stale and just just never take the time to hit the reset or refresh button. There's so many areas of life where this is applicable, right? We talked about bread. That's simple. We talked about the car. That's simple. But like, have you ever been using a lotion for or whatever moisturizer for a long time? And then after a while, it just seems like this lotion don't hit the same, right? Like it doesn't get the crevices like I need it to, and my skin isn't feeling as moisturized as it once was, or I'm not in love with this scent anymore. And I kind of describe that as growing stale. If you've ever you ever like went to kick it with your friends, you hanging out with your homies, and like y'all doing the same old, and you just not this, you don't have the same level of excitement about hanging out with them or doing that particular thing. It's kind of getting old, growing stale. This goes on and on and on, but I think like there's some examples I think of that aren't so typical when you think about how things can grow stale or grow old. But really, it's just this idea, this concept of things not being refreshed, renewed. Your car insurance. Is your car insurance growing stale, old? Has it not been refreshed? Like, oh, I just roll with XYZ company. I just roll with XYZ company, and it just is what it is. So whether your rates are going up or down and you're being jacked all around, it just is what it is. You pay your payment, whether that's annually, quarterly, monthly, like you just make your payment and you keep it moving. I'm covered. I have insurance. Is it, just think about like the strategy for your life. Like, how are you navigating the waters of, having goals, wanting to accomplish goals, or, you just get up every day, same routine. I eat the same thing. I take the same route to work. I've been on the same job for all these years. It's the same blah, 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 blah. But that things are just stale. Haven't been refreshed in a while. I believe that there is immense benefit to each of us to call to question the things in our lives, the things that we think, that we say, and that we do, to make sure that they aren't growing stale or old, and that it isn't time for them to be refreshed. This notion, it kind of starts in my head, like if you think about like your relationship with God, relationships as a whole, there's some times where, I remember when I first started trying to read my Bible every day, it was like the biggest struggle. It didn't matter how many Bibles my grandmother bought me when I was little. Literally, to sit down and read the Bible every day, it just wasn't happening. And so in my adulthood, mid-20s, I think it was, like I literally was like, all right, you know what? YouVersion. I download this app. I'm going to try to open this. It actually may have been late 20s. I don't remember. But I'm going to commit myself to every day reading a single verse. How dope. They literally spoon feed you a verse of the day every day. If I just read this verse, I have at least opened and read something from my Bible every day. Well, once I got the hang of that and I had committed and I surpassed that year mark, excited, pumped, amazed, and it was amazing, all that. But after a while, just opening it up and reading the verse, it's like, kind of lost something for me. So the next thing you know, I roll on and I started finding like the devotionals to walk through. And that was allowing for me, not that the scripture itself, like reading the verses was dry or boring, but kind of turned into that. So I needed to refresh and do something new. And for me, that was leveling up and checking out these devotionals. So hearing a different voice and different perspectives about what I was reading, and then picking topics that I was interested in at that time. And that was a way for me to refresh. But it continues to happen in my life, that there are different ways. Since we've moved to California, I've found that although I haven't always been big on nature, literally the highlights of my days are really being outside, because it allows for me to connect with nature and connect with God, and I can hear him and I can think clearly and I can kind of escape and take deep breaths and live in the moment. And that's another way for me to connect and refresh and keep things shaken, not stirred, in terms of my relationship with God, but always looking for ways to refresh and know that that's a priority and something that we should be doing. But like I said, I mean, it's all over your life. There are people who will recommend, hey, at least once a year, you ought to check out insurance companies and shop your policy. There's no penalty for changing insurance companies, but to make sure you're getting a competitive rate for the services that you require, right? So you want to, of course, it has to be a reputable company, but it's a way to, of course, stewardship, ensure that you're saving a buck or two on your insurance, not necessarily by switching Geico. I remember when I left Geico because I found someplace else that was cheaper, but literally just taking that opportunity to seek and make sure, like, hey, does this need to be refreshed? I think about relationships again, kind of on that level, but like with my husband, like watching movies just isn't the same in terms of our quality time. So we look at and try to explore different things that we can do to keep it fresh so that things don't grow stale and that they don't grow old. We can continue to go on and on and on into the various nuances of different subject matters and or topics or areas where there's an opportunity for refreshing. And I hope it's really driving home the point that in everything, and there are seasons for things, and we need to be in tune with whether or not things are growing old, stale, whatever vernacular you choose to describe that. But is there something that needs to be refreshed in our lives? And sometimes it's the simple things. Sometimes they're easy things that just make all the difference. I started taking a different route to work, hypothetically, and all of a sudden, it seems new, even though I'm still just getting to work, but it's still something that's refreshing that you enjoy. There's so many things that you can do and that you can think of. But again, the challenge really boils down to this. Is there an opportunity to refresh, to reset, to start anew, or to mix things up in your life? Sometimes that mixing it up is a challenge, and you might have to change relationships and or end them. Sometimes that mixing it up is good because it reinvigorates a relationship. It adds excitement to a task that has to be done and or a relationship that will always be like that between a mother and a child. But what is it that you can do? And we can do things in order to make sure that we aren't just going through life humdrum. Next day. It's not Groundhog's Day, but I keep getting older. Know that we can make sure that we are enjoying the journey that we are on. Because I believe, again, we're all headed to the destination of more that God has for each and every one of us. And while we're on this journey, it should be a joy. We should enjoy the journey, enjoy life. So this week's challenge, take a moment and assess your life and just consider, is there an area or two where you could press the reset button or do something to refresh what's going on around you in your environment so that things are a bit more pleasant, that you enjoy the journey just a wee bit more? So I hope that you accept this challenge, taking it head on, and remember that it just isn't a one-time occurrence, but every now and again, choose a frequency that works for you so that you can step back and revisit. Hey, what can I refresh? What can I mix up to keep this thing? I don't know why hot and heavy just popped in my head. We're gonna let that one sit, but to keep things going, keep life exciting and fun. That's all for this week, guys. I hope that you can take the time. Make the time to subscribe if you haven't, rate and review this podcast, but then also share it with somebody else that you think will be encouraged by this challenge. Partner up with a homie, and you guys can take this challenge on together. Maybe it's something that you guys can hold each other accountable to and or just encourage each other and walk along with it. But remember, I really want to hear from you. So drop a review and make sure you leave a rating. That's all for this week. But remember, God has more for me. God has more for you. Now let's get it. Take care.